everyone. Happy Friday. We did it. We made it through another week. Hello, greetings and salutations, fellow cult worshippers. I just had a DM conversation with our friend Andrew Gold, who's been on my main channel a couple of times. Andrew has a wonderful podcast. It's On the Edge with Andrew Gold, and he was on Timcast this week, which good for him. Some people like that sort of thing, and he really is a wonderful interviewer, wonderful storyteller. And I was DMing with him this week, and I said, Andrew, can you come on my channel and explain the difference between an effective cult and an ineffective cult, and what effective cult leaders do and what ineffective cult leaders do? Because a lot of Andrew's work has actually been with like weird things like cults and exorcisms and extremist groups and things like that. And so I can't imagine a better person to give us insight into the cult, but that is a different thing for a different day. We're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks. He's traveling right now, and I hope he's doing well. But guys, welcome to Happy Hour. Happy Hour is a time where we watch a woke training from start to finish, and we do this to learn what the enemy is doing. We do it to learn what the enemy is thinking, how they talk about what they're doing, how they indoctrinate fellow people into their little woke ideology. And this week, I do want to give a shout out to Jan. Jan, I'm so happy that you made it. Jan found us a channel this week that I think is going to be fascinating to take a look at. And this only has like 14 views, and I'm pretty sure at least 2 of them are mine from checking out the stream earlier. But this is a channel called The Art of Advocacy. And this video has 14 views. So not that many, but this channel's got a whole lot of videos that I think let's chat about how to be an emancipatory teacher, ungrading, what is a gradeless classroom, how to organize a school public demonstration. So lots of interesting stuff on this channel, and I bet it's going to be a little woke. But the one that I wanted to start us off with today is how to advocate for LGBTQ plus students in our schools. And this is very timely because it just happened yesterday. So the reason that I picked this out is, so this is the type of thing that teachers in public schools are going to watch for advice on how to be teachers in public schools. So this type of stuff is the type of stuff that makes its way into the classroom. And so I really think that watching teacher training especially is one of those ways that we can really figure out what's going on in the schools, because if teachers are getting anything that they're using in their classrooms, they're getting it from their own professional development resources, right? And so watching these public trainings that they're doing is a great way to really surmise what are the teachers learning and what ideas might they be implementing in the classroom. And that makes it easier for us to be able to identify how they're actually indoctrinating kids, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what they're doing. And there are laws being written and passed that people say are going to prevent gender ideology in the classroom, are going to prevent critical race theory in the classroom. And those laws fail to do their job because the people writing and passing those laws aren't paying attention to how they're actually articulating the information. That's why we're watching this on Happy Hour today. I'm really glad that you guys are here. Just a couple quick things before we get started. Number one, we do have tomorrow, if you signed up for the Actively Unwoke book club, we do have our last meeting tomorrow. This is our last of 3 meetings. That's going to be on tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time in my supporter community. But basically, so you don't even need to be a supporter in order to take advantage of this. What's going to happen is I'm going to send you out a Zoom link actually right out after this presentation, or it's actually already been sent out for people who've already signed up for book club. But if you haven't signed up yet, this is going to be your last chance. So I'll send you out a Zoom link, and we will gather at 3 p.m. to have a discussion about the book, answer any questions you have, stuff like that. So that's going to be at 3 p.m. tomorrow. And I'll send out a message to my locals community too, just in case anyone wants to join us. If you're on my Patreon, you're welcome to join us. And if you've just purchased a copy of my book, but you haven't supported my work in any other way, that's totally cool, because all you need to do to get access to this book club is to have purchased a copy of the book. Easy peasy. So that is going to be happening at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Next week, we have one more week to read the Communist Manifesto, but it's totally doable because Communist Manifesto is really effing short. And we are going to be gathering, if you are in my supporter community, we are going to be gathering for a discussion of the Communist Manifesto next Saturday at 3 p.m. And again, this is all part of the idea of we have to learn what their ideas are. We have to learn what they're saying. We have to learn how they're talking to each other. We have to learn what their words mean. We have to learn, whether we like it or not, the foundational knowledge that drives what they are doing. And I can think of no better book to give us some core foundational knowledge than the Communist Manifesto. So get your copy of it. There are lots of free copies available online. You can listen to people reading it on YouTube, I think. So you can get it in many, many places. And let's see, Southside Unlimited, the day program I used to go to, was a woke left communist criminal program. Oh, I bet. We watch lots of communism. We'll actually be watching socialism tomorrow on my main channel for Socialism Saturdays. I don't know what yet, but we'll watch something. Anyway, if you want to join us for book club and get lots of other perks as well, how you need to do that is by becoming a supporter in my community. You can become a supporter in a couple different ways. Number one, you can join my Patreon anywhere from $5 a month all the way up to $250 a month, depending on what perks you want. All of it goes to support my work. You can get some cool swag when you join via Patreon, which I think is actually a pretty neat feature of Patreon. It's part of why I'm on Patreon. But I know that some of you don't want to join Patreon, which I totally understand and respect. You can also join my locals community if you're looking for a little bit more interaction. You can head over to kb.locals.com and join there. $5 a month, $50 a year. All the information is in the description below. And these things are going to get you access to my supporter community, my 2 community Zoom calls that I do every single week, and access to book club and access to my supporter Discord. We're having movie night on Sunday. It's looking like for movie night on Sunday on the Discord, we are watching either, well, there's a poll going in locals where we're either going to watch Nightmare on Elm Street or Wishmaster. I think Nightmare on Elm Street's winning though, so it's going to be a Nightmare on Elm Street night for locals, or for the Discord rather, and you can get access to the Discord by joining as a supporter on any one of these platforms, which is pretty great. Now, before we get into it, our friend Gabrielle Clark got permanently banned on Twitter. She did. So for those of you who haven't heard yet, Gabs got permanently banned on Twitter. She called someone a hoe. That's really what happened. She called someone a hoe. That's all I can take on Twitter, man. Listen, if you don't want to lose your Twitter account, you got to be careful. And, you know, I'm not saying that maybe this was planned. Maybe it probably wasn't. I'm certain it wasn't. But I did just want to let people know that Gabs, I have talked to her. What Gabs has said is that, first of all, she's fine. It's cool, man. But the very best way that you can support her is, number one, by following Rev Fox on Twitter, which is Gabs' organization. So if there's anything she really needs you guys to know, I'm sure Rev Fox will probably send it out. Number two, you can support what she's doing in her constant and amazing activism over at givesendgo.com. Support the Clarks. And the last thing I wanted to show you is Gabs actually has a store with some great merchandise in it. It's called Be a Braver American. I have pinned the link to the top of the chat. This is another way that you can support Gabs, is by picking up some sweet, sweet swag. And I got to tell you, I'm actually wearing one of the things right now that she has in the store. It's the Protect the Tomboy hoodie. And I wish I could spin around to show you the back, because the back is the coolest part of this hoodie. And that right there is what it looks like. And it really does look good. It looks great. It looks great. And it's a great hoodie too. You can see it's actually like really long. I love the length of this hoodie. Fits really well and like looks really, really cool. I love it. And you can get this over in Gabs' store along with some other merchandise as well. And that will help support the work she's doing. And you're going to get some cool swag. You can even get like a t-shirt like this. This t-shirt was actually designed by Gabs' daughter, Danica. And by the way, the Protect the Tomboys hoodie was designed by our very own bot, because we help and support each other in my community. So head over to her store, pick up some sweet, sweet swag, and support the work Gabs is doing. And we will wait patiently for her return to Twitter once Elon Musk finally takes over. All right, guys. Well, we do have a tradition on Happy Hour, and that is that I have some beers for Happy Hour, and you get to vote on what beer I start with. Now, I will say that it's a little bit of a boring beer day just because I didn't go to the craft beer store. So I'm kind of stuck with what was in my fridge. And it's going to be a pumpkin kind of day. So I have my beers from the good old Elysian variety pack. So you guys are going to, like, I have 4 pumpkin beers here. So you're picking out a pumpkin beer. Do you want me to start with the Great Pumpkin, which is an imperial pumpkin ale? An imperial ale just means that it has more alcohol than your average pumpkin ale. Do you want me to start with Darko the Moon, which is a pumpkin stout? Pumpkin stouts are delightful if you've never had them. Do you want me to start with Night Owl, which is their regular pumpkin ale? Or do you want me to start with my favorite, Punkachino, which is a coffee pumpkin ale? And I got to tell you guys, I was a little skeptical of the Punkachino when I first got this variety pack, but turns out it's really effing good. It's really good. So I'm putting a poll in the community right now, and you guys are going to have a couple minutes to vote because I have to fix something that my computer just did. Hang on. My computer just messed up my display midstream. So while you guys are doing that vote, I'm just going to fix my display real quick. All right, you might see me flicker for a second, but I'll be right back. All right, you might see me flicker one more time, but I'll be back, I promise. All right, I'm back. I think I should be back. And my problem is fixed because that is the magic of the computer. All right, just turn it off, turn it back on again. That's really all it takes. All right, let's see. 10 for the poll. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it looks like we're starting with that Punkachino. Gabs' handle on Twitter is GabsClark5. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Oh, first beer I pulled. All right. I got to say that there's something about drinking beer out of a bottle. So many beers today are served in cans, and I don't mind the can. I get the appeal of the can, but I prefer drinking beer out of a bottle myself. It's just sturdier. Cheers, guys. Happy Friday. We made it again. If you're drinking something interesting, please put it in the chat. This is so good. I'm pretty sure you can only get this in the Elysian variety packs, but the good news for those of you who's like, I don't have a craft beer store near me, which is probably wrong, by the way. Craft beer stores, craft beer bars, all over the place. You can usually find one. But Elysian is now owned by Budweiser, which means this is a mass-produced beer, which means you can find this variety pack lots of different places. But it's really, really good, and I definitely recommend it. All right, guys, let's get this party started. Mount that like button for me if you are appreciative of Happy Hour Fridays. I hope you've all had a wonderful week. Let's kick up our feet, watch some Leftists, and have some fun. Oh, hang on. Got to rewind them. There we go.
Welcome to another episode of the Leading Equity. Oh, no, this is not the Leading Equity. It's the wrong show. Okay, this is the Art of Advocacy. Oh, my gosh. That's what happens when you have 2 shows. Sometimes you get fixed.
I got like 18 shows, dude. It's not that hard.
Art of Advocacy. I'm your host, Dr. Sheldon L. Akins. I am happy to be here. I'm excited. It has been an awesome week. See, I just got back. See, I went to Salt Lake City this week. Did some workout there.
Salt Lake City's pretty great.
Workout in the Portland area. Actually, and let me clarify. It wasn't Portland. It was Albany, Oregon. So about an hour and a half away from Portland, but I flew into Portland. So shout out to folks out there at the Lynn County Health Department. Great opportunity to chat about microaggressions. We spent the day yesterday talking about microaggressions. It was totally fun.
What a fucking grifter. He's doing trainings about microaggressions.
Just
if someone is a microaggression trainer, they are a grifter. Never doubt it.
Anytime I do a training, I always talk about the importance of this being a brave space. One of the things I recognize as a trainer is that you have individuals that are going to be
QR code go to
in
bot?
these
I don't want to scan it.
that are at different levels, right? You got some folks that are brand new. You got some folks that have been, this is their lived experience. You got some folks that have been kind of doing some work
Oh,
on
this
their
is so
own, the
woke.
legwork and all these different type of things. You have a slew of different levels when it comes to understanding. And it was such a great opportunity. I really had a great time yesterday out there. So shout out to Lynn County Department of Health
Paid
for the
for
work.
by
By the way, if you do
taxpayer
need some support, if you're looking
dollars.
for keynotes, if you're looking for trainings, I'm your guy. All right, reach out to Leading Equity Center. We'll be happy to help you out. I love keynoting. I'm actually going to be on stage
Gotta do
next
the
week
captions.
here locally at Idaho State University. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be keynoting.
Oh, there's
the
no
diversity
captions. Sorry,
conference,
people who like captions.
through
There's
the
no
College of
captions available.
Education. So that's going to be fun. I'm
Oh,
really
bingo
excited for
card.
those
I'll
opportunities.
put the bingo
By the
card
way,
in the chat, Deborah.
can't forget, show is sponsored by Leading Equity, becoming an advocate for all students. If you do not have a copy
There's
of
your
this
bingo
book,
card, folks. Enjoy.
I just got one simple question. Why? Why don't you have a copy of this book? Listen, what I have done in this book is I've created 10 different steps. I don't believe in checklists. I don't believe that, you do these 10 things, boom, 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 boom. You are certified, you're full-fledged equity advocate. No, there's work that we got to do. And I will say this. I don't think I've arrived. I think that at the end of the day, there's more learning that I can do.
You know how you know this is a grift? And listen, I'm not going to make the argument that we aren't in a constant state of evolution, right? Of course, we're in a constant state of evolution. But you know how you know this guy's a grifter? Is he's like, I'm not going to give you a checklist that you can just check off and be done. No. That's not how this works. You're never really done. You have to keep coming back to me for more coaching and more training. And that's why I don't give checklists out, because then you'd stop coming back to me if you filled out all the steps on the checklist. So it's not enough just to do a checklist. You have to constantly be doing the work to make sure that you're disrupting your unconscious bias.
There's things that I will never understand. There's things that I will not be able to personally relate to. However, I can try to engage and educate myself and learn as much as I can so I can provide an empathetic approach to any type of situation that's out there. So if you haven't bought the book, please support your boy. By the way, feel free to support this channel. Okay, we're trying to grow the YouTube channel. I love doing the podcast. I've been doing the podcast, Leading Equity Podcast, for 4 years, 4.5 years now these days. And so we're trying to grow the YouTube channel. So I would appreciate if you have not subscribed, if you're not following the channel, please do so. Support your boy. All right, let's get into the topic today.
Let's do it.
We're going to be talking about
Let's do it, Sheldon.
LGBTQ plus community, our students, working with them and providing some opportunities for them to feel supported, not othered, but for them to feel welcomed, included, valued. That's right, I said it. Valued within your school community. So my special guest today is Farnaz Kaufman. This individual, I'm excited. I mean, we just briefly talked before we went live.
I'm so excited. I don't really know what she's going to say, but I'm so excited.
A sentence or two of her bio, and then from there, we're going to bring her on in just a moment. So Farnaz Kaufman is an educational leader and visionary. With over 20 years of experience in public education, she started her career as a teacher at Carpenter Avenue Elementary. All right. So without further ado, that's right. Without further ado, we're bringing on Farnaz.
I'm going to need way more beer for this show.
Welcome to the show.
Levels, dude. Levels.
Hand claps. I know. I see you smiling over there. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I am excited for this. You and I, you went live with me a couple years ago. And I appreciate that. When we were doing the Art of Advocacy, the virtual summit a couple years back.
Correct.
So now we are doing the official YouTube channel. This is what we do every single week. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing beautifully today, actually. It's a lovely day today in Southern California. And I'm really excited to be doing this with you.
Side note, is anyone getting like a million goddamn spam calls and texts from political candidates? Is that just me? Did I just end up on way too many mailing lists during 2020? because I'm about ready to like throw my phone out the goddamn window. The thing is ringing all day long with numbers I don't recognize. That I get text messages all the time at like all hours. I am so sick of it. I am so sick of it. Oh. Like, I got an email yesterday saying, I need 1,200 gifts urgently. Like, dude, I need a fucking pony, okay? You don't always get what you want. Stop giving money to these people. The fact that these people get like beg for donations constantly and then they invest those donations in call centers so they can annoy us more to beg for more donations is like the most it's awful. It's really awful.
You know, every time I hear Southern California, I always think about it never rains in Southern California. That's my jam.
Yeah.
But you know, I just read like one sentence, maybe two sentences of your bio, but I'd love for you to share a little bit more about who you are and what you currently do.
Okay, so currently I am in administration, but I started my career in the classroom. I spent 17 years at the same elementary school, Carpenter, in Studio City, California,
Elementary
where
school.
my focus
Good.
became working with twice exceptional kids, so mostly highly gifted kids with disabilities. And my entire career
Autistic
there,
kids.
my focus was working on those kids that
These
just
people
didn't fit in the
prey on
box.
autistic kids.
My reputation at the school was if you had kids that other teachers didn't understand, you know, that's the class you went to. You went to Miss Kaufman, she would figure it out. So I am staying in the classroom. I never planned on leaving until I had my own child. And my child identified highly gifted, also
Autistic.
identified gender neutral by 3rd grade.
What?
And I knew that they
my child, my autistic child, that's what she means when she says highly gifted, guys. Autistic. And listen, no shade on the autists. I love the autists. I do. Most libertarians are autists. So no shade. But these people prey on autistic kids. It's disgusting. It is disgusting. And so I'm sure it's no surprise that her autistic child identified as non-binary in the 3rd grade.
they needed something different. So I left the district after being a UTLA rep for 10 years. I know.
There are very few things that piss me off more than when you can openly watch people taking advantage of like autistic people. It's so disgusting to me. It's so disgusting. And I think one of the reasons it triggers me, as it were, is because I've worked with so many autistic people. I like, you know, a lot of the people that I would end up coaching in organizations were absolutely autistic, and the reason they would send them to me to coach is because I would teach them how to communicate, and I would teach them like social signals and stuff like that. So I would help them understand why sometimes they weren't necessarily like why their communication with their colleagues wasn't working, and kind of like how they could do things differently. And it's not to say they were communicating wrong, because they weren't communicating wrong. There's no wrong way to communicate, but sometimes some things are more just more effective than others. Anyway, I see so many people taking advantage of autistic people, and it pisses me off because people with autism have beautiful creative minds, and they look at things differently. And they just like it is refreshing sometimes to be around autistic people with just how they view the world. But I do think that they can be very easily taken advantage of because they don't understand social signals a lot of times, and they don't understand the underlying motivation behind why people are doing what they're doing. They kind of a lot of times will take things at a face value that makes it very easy for them to be manipulated by people who are trying to manipulate them. And it's disgusting. I'm sorry. It's disgusting.
And I actually started a charter school, specifically
She started
geared
a charter
towards
school.
kids that just didn't fit in the box.
Oh, good.
And I've been in the charter world since moved into a role where I now support 6 different charter schools. I'm part of their central office kind of position. And in that position, I get to work with their title programs. I work with the dual immersion programs, and I'm part of the equity task force, working on making sure we have DI initiatives in all of our schools and working with them to develop their own equity task force within each site.
So you started a charter school?
Yes, I did.
I had no idea.
I'm
This
that
guy
crazy,
does a lot of
yes.
research on his guests. You can
What
tell.
led you there? How did that happen?
Really my child. It was my kid was came to school with me. I was really lucky. Being a teacher, I suggested to everyone. My child came to school with me every day. Both my kids did. And my child was in 3rd grade. I decided to start my admin program thinking, okay, just at least get the credential. The next year, my child's in 4th grade. I have a project that says, oh, you've started a new school, write the newsletter. And I look at my partner and I thought, yeah. And so that winter break, we wrote a charter and
Wow.
we opened that summer.
Wow. So now you said currently you're over, or your role is
Yeah, my little
participating in
school
multiple
merged.
schools.
Yeah, my little school merged with a larger charter organization, I Lead Schools.
Mhm.
And since then, I moved and became the director of the founding school for a couple of years, and then now I work in the I Lead Schools California. I'm the director of Global Educational Initiatives. It's a great title.
Oh, good.
So what are the global initiatives?
So a big part of our schools is international learning. We have our high schools are both IB schools, International Baccalaureate programs. So definitely a big part of it. We also do service learning out of the country. We've done several trips to Puerto Rico for service learning, and had trips. We also have a camp in Hawaii where we've done practice and learning there. And then I also sponsor a program right now. We're doing our dual immersion program. Our dual immersion program, I built it over the last 3 years. But what we really wanted was it to be truly international. So our facilitators for the program are visiting teachers from Spain and Mexico. So they are native speakers who come here for 3 years on visas and work with us and develop our program with us.
Listen, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
I have another side.
I didn't know that. I am impressed. I'm excited for, thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's very valuable when we have, just for me personally, like as an individual who's an advocate for equity work, just hearing what you're doing, starting your own school, getting, involved in multiple schools, IB schools, just the work, bringing in professors and oh man, this is awesome. So, but that's not our topic for today. The thing about it, with all that being said, that's not even what we're talking about today. But I'm impressed. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Hats off to you. I do appreciate that. But let's
Thank
get
you,
into it,
Skid Mark, for the super sticker.
We're talking about
it's a little
LGBTQ+
cartoon saying hype.
Our students.
I appreciate it.
And sadly, I will admit, I don't cover this topic enough. I know I don't. I'll admit that
he's not doing the work.
I want to do better with that. I want to make sure, because I get emails every now and then. How come you don't? A lot
her
of the emails
haircut
I'll get
is horrible.
is,
it doesn't
you don't
fit
talk
her
enough
face.
about our deaf
it doesn't,
and hard of hearing community, and you don't talk enough about our LGBTQ+ community.
It could be better.
So I want to do better in both areas. So I'm glad that you're on the show, because I want to talk about that, but I want to kind of lay a little bit of groundwork and just kind of have the audience understand where you're coming from as far as your passion, how you got involved. So why don't you start us off there? What brought you to doing this work?
First and foremost, of course, the biggest reason that I am so passionate and involved is my own child. I'm the parent of a non-binary child, who we knew.
You're the parent of an autistic child.
Somewhere on the gender spectrum. By age 2, was experimenting with clothing and color.
You knew at age 2 that your child was on the gender spectrum. Age 2. Were they speaking yet? I mean, kids speak by 2, right? What at age 2 is an identifier for a child being on the gender spectrum that they like the toys of the other gender? My God.
And what, although born male, did not always identify that way, and by third grade had identified gender neutral. So we knew as parents that that was something we were going to be handling all the time. But I think my advocacy work dated to even before being a parent. I look at how I was as an educator and who I was as a classroom teacher. And I'm not joking that I really got every kid that every other teacher did not understand, literally. And so that tended to be in an elementary school level, a lot of students who were twice exceptional. So other teachers couldn't understand why such a bright child wouldn't perform. Or I got students who were somewhere on the gender spectrum or on the sexuality spectrum and were trying to figure themselves out and just didn't fit in. And, working with those populations, I kind of found that I was the one who would help them talk to their parents, and I was the one who would help them.
How many children has this woman convinced that they are not the gender that aligns with the body that they were born into? I'm trying to choose my words very carefully. How many children has this woman transed? And maybe some of them were trans. But I don't think anyone knows that they're trans at 2 years old.
Figure out resources. And so then as my own child found that need by fourth grade and we opened a charter, that was a big focus of the school I opened. And 20% of our students identified somewhere on the LGBTQ plus spectrum somewhere.
Okay.
So that's a large percentage.
Hang on. I'm sorry. I need to clip this. I need to go back and clip this. I'm sorry. I just I'm fucking obligated to. Hang on. Yep, recording the right things. All right, clipping away.
First and foremost, of course, the biggest reason that I am so passionate and involved is my own child. I'm the parent of a non-binary child who we knew at a very early age was somewhere on the gender spectrum. By age 2, was experimenting with clothing and colors, and although born male, did not always identify that way, and by third grade had identified gender neutral. So we knew as parents that that was something we were going to be handling all the time. But I think my advocacy work dated to even before being a parent. I look at how I was as an educator and who I was as a classroom teacher. And I'm not joking that I really got every kid that every other teacher did not understand, literally. And so that tended to be in an elementary school level, a lot of students who were twice exceptional. So other teachers couldn't understand why such a bright child wouldn't perform. Or I got students who were somewhere on the gender spectrum or on the sexuality spectrum and were trying to figure themselves out and just didn't fit in. And working with those populations, I kind of found that I was the one who would help them talk to their parents, and I was the one who would help them figure out resources. And so then as my own child found that need by fourth grade and we opened a charter, that was a big focus of the school I opened. And 20% of our students identified somewhere on the LGBTQ plus spectrum somewhere. So that's a large percentage for a K-8 school. And I found that what was lacking was a place where parents didn't have to fight for their kids' rights to even just exist at those schools, to use the restroom that they chose, to not be outed, etc. And so for me, it was really about developing large spaces where not only did the students feel safe, but the parents felt supported.
Thank you for sharing.
Wow. Okay, hang on. Let me make sure I got my clip. These people really think they're doing good, by the way. They think that they are like, and I think that that's important to acknowledge, that these people really think that they are serving these communities when in fact they're taking advantage of autistic kids.
Sharon. Now, I'm curious because you said your child is non-binary. For
Correct.
those who aren't familiar, aren't well aware of what does that mean, can you define that for us?
Yes, I think definitions are the first place to start always. I think before we even define non-binary, we need to define the difference between gender and sexuality.
Okay.
And that's truly where so many misconceptions and so many confusions lie. Sexuality is the person's sexual orientation, whether they're attracted to people of the same gender, other gender, they could be attracted to neither, they could be polyamorous, but that is their sexual attraction. That's their physical and sexual
Are we
attraction.
teaching children about polyamory
Gender,
now?
however, is how they express themselves. It's who they are on
Most
the
adults
inside.
can't handle polyamory. Why are you teaching that to
always
kids?
separate from their sexuality, and we tend to lump it together, and we really need to split them apart because that's where the nuances are. They are both really, and they're not even, neither of them are a binary system. They are all very spectrum oriented. So you have to think of them as, most people fall towards the end of one or toward side or the other, but there's this whole center area that is where the confusion lies and where our kids are trying to define themselves, where they come up with 1,000,001 terms.
Look at that dog.
Because they're trying to find their little
good
niche
dog.
within that spectrum. And so I think that's the first place we start. And then
I like him a little bit more now that he has that dog with a beard. I'm very partial to dogs with beard.
We've grown up in a world that's very binary. You're male, female. And that is what you're born with. That is your genitalia, not your gender. And when we look through history and we look through different cultures, this binary notion was not in existence in other cultures.
Wait,
this was not
you're right. You're right. Maybe it's a cat.
Even.
The dog might
and
identify
so
as a
we've
cat.
really
You're right.
developed this rigid binary male female definition. And in between all of that are a whole group of people who aren't sure where they fall in because they're not one or the other. And so there we fall into 1,000,001 terms, and there are 1,000,001 terms that these kids have come up with for who they are within there. But the one that seems to be the most prevalent is non-binary, which means you are not male or female. You don't identify with the binary system. You just know you're somewhere in there. And the other one that's somewhat synonymous is gender fluid, which is you go between the two. Purists will argue that gender fluid means you present both ways, and non-binary means that you just present both at the same time. All of that, but really, truly, that's where it falls.
Okay, yeah. So I'm familiar with gender fluid, and I'm familiar with non-binary. So I appreciate you for clarifying that. But I wanted to make sure that our audience had, some, I guess, a starting point as far as understanding some of the ways that our students identify. Now, if I am considering myself as a non-binary, would I be more likely to utilize maybe they or them when it comes to pronouns?
They, them, or Zer are the most common. However, there are people who are non-binary who still choose to use a binary pronoun because it's easier.
Okay.
So again, you can't judge if someone's male or female by looking at them. It's the same with pronouns. It's just how they're choosing to identify. But my child uses they, them, which gets super complicated in conversations, especially when I have two children. People don't know if I'm talking about both of them or one of them quite often.
Because it's not grammatically correct.
We found if that's the pronoun they're choosing to use, that is the most important thing we can do is honor it. And we still mess up all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. You're going to, especially if it's your child and you've been used to using one pronoun for a long period of time. The most important thing is that every time you do, you just catch it, apologize, move on. Don't make a big deal, just move on.
I like that. Just catch it, move on. I was sharing with the group yesterday. I said, this is a challenge that I have. I will admit, sometimes with pronouns, I do make mistakes. Because again, based off of how I grew up, based off of stereotypes, I see someone that looks like a male to me, and so therefore I want to use he or him. But this individual might have said, you know what, no, I prefer she or her, or they or them. And so as a result, in my mind, I'm looking at someone that I feel looks like a male. And so I mess that up a lot. And I shared with the group yesterday I was working with, and I said, this is an area that I am working on. I want to be respectful. It would be considered a microaggression if I continue to mess up the pronouns.
No,
so
dude, it'd be considered a microaggression the first time.
So I am glad that
Not just if you
up.
keep messing it up. It would be considered a microaggression the first time.
And if you don't want to share, I completely understand.
Sure.
But as a parent, like, I would like to kind of know, how did that conversation, because you said back in third grade is when, I guess, the non-binary. I guess you knew already.
We knew when our child was 2. Yeah. At age 2, we knew. Like, we just kind of were like, okay, well, we'll wait. We'll figure something. We weren't sure if it's gender. We weren't sure if it was sexuality. We weren't sure if it was both. We didn't know.
Wow.
But we knew that at some point they were somewhere on the spectrum, different than how they presented before. So we just were supportive. And
hang on, I need to clip that. I'm sorry. I don't even know where she's going, but I want to. I want to clip it. I want to clip it. We're just gonna let this. We're gonna let this play out.
So that's something I need to work on personally. So I am glad that you are bringing that up. I'm curious, and if you don't want to share, I completely understand.
Sure.
But as a parent, like, I would like to kind of know, how did that conversation? Because you said back in third grade is when, I guess, the non-binary. I guess you knew already.
We knew when our child was 2. Yeah. At age 2, we knew. Like, we just kind of were like, okay, well, we'll wait. We'll figure something. We weren't sure if it's gender. We weren't sure if it was sexuality. We weren't sure if it was both. We didn't know. But we knew that at some point they were somewhere on the spectrum, different than how they presented before. So we just were supportive. And I remember, in third grade, my child just commenting, just out of the blue, that they were gender neutral. And we're like, okay. And we let that go. And things continued. And when they actually came out, like fully came out and said, I am non-binary, etc., it wasn't till 8th grade. And we were sitting on the couch. Our child walked into the room, announced it. We looked up, we said, okay. And we went back to what we were doing. And they were surprised, like, well, that's it. We're like, well, we've known, we've been waiting for you to,
Yeah.
So for us, it wasn't difficult. But I work with a lot of families where they are completely in shock because for them, their child didn't have any signs or exhibit any behavior or anything that they viewed as a different gender or different sexuality. And so that's I think that's where I have found myself doing the majority of my work now is
all right.
I
think that's a good enough clip. And yes, I marry it. I completely 1000% agree with you. They did it to win mommy's affection. They did it because they knew it was what mommy wanted them to do. Because mommy had been grooming them since they were 2 years old. Deborah says, how would a third grader know the words? The only way you know the words is if you're taught by adults.
As a teacher, as an administrator, it was creating those safe spaces. It was making sure our kids had places to be. It was training my staff. And now, as an administrator, and now more in my role now, I find that I'm working with families who are in shock or don't know how to support or don't know what to do, both as a family as well as how do I get what I need for my kid at school?
Okay.
Because that's where it gets difficult. That's where, if your child is not in a safe space and you're a parent advocate, that's where it gets difficult. And then there's also the opposite. I do work with staff who are supporting students whose parents aren't supportive and helping them get resources and how do they handle it with the parents without outing the child.
Yeah.
So it's the adults who need help too with this.
Are you seeing a lot of I mean, I guess the question I have then is, are you seeing a lot of parents that
So I want to mention, so Bot said in the chat, and I'm sure Bot is making a joke. So she's grooming parents too. Listen, adults can't be groomed. No matter what our favorite queen seems to think, adults can't be groomed. The reason that kids can be groomed is because they haven't developed the logical part of their brain yet. And so when educators are grooming kids, and kids could be up until like 18. I mean, we don't fully develop our brain until we're in our early to mid 20s. So in school, I feel very comfortable calling it grooming when they're in school, because the kids have not developed the part of their brain that's going to give them the ability to defend themselves. But adults have that part of their brain. Adults just behave stupidly. So I don't believe adults can be groomed. I don't think anyone should believe that adults can be groomed. And if there are any 27-year-old men on Twitter claiming they were groomed through jokes about sex, they're fucking liars.
aren't accepting?
Oh yeah.
Is that more on that side, or is it more of like, we have a lot of parents that understand and they accepting? Like, is it
The community,
50-50?
it depends on the community.
Okay.
Very honestly, it depends on the community. I've now been an administrator in 2 very different communities. The school that I started was in a very suburban, fluent neighborhood. It was every parent who came there, they were there to support their kid, and most of them already knew that their child was trans or something.
Hang on.
And
I don't believe that adults can be indoctrinated. I'm sorry. Like, again, at some point, people have to take personal responsibility for what they're bringing to the table. Again, kids can be indoctrinated because they don't have the logic reason part of their brain. They do not have the ability to defend themselves at all against stuff like this, but adults do. So adults have to take responsibility. So I don't agree with that. And if you don't know what's going on with Twitter, don't worry about it. It's unimportant. Just a 27-year-old man saying he was groomed because someone made a joke about sex. And I'm apparently a predator for doing that, so no sex jokes allowed, ever. If I believe that 27-year-olds can be groomed, which I don't.
super supportive. There were a few, but the majority of those families were there for it. I was then at another school where it was very split, and it was in a neighborhood where some of the families were very conservative and very uncomfortable with it. And I had a line outside my door when at our multicultural festival, we had our GSA had a booth, and they didn't understand that there can be an LGBTQ plus culture. So that was fun. So I've done both, and having to support those teachers who, the
people do joke about sex all the time.
Will get kicked out if the parents find out.
They do, because sex is funny.
It's
really funny. It's the only people who don't think sex is funny are the people who haven't had sex.
There, and at the same time, both exist in every
or only
area.
had really bad sex, I guess.
So it's just knowing who they are.
Okay. That makes sense. I've had conversations. First of all, I live in a state that is not necessarily the most. How do I want to say this? They're not the most accepting, if you will, as a state. State, and I know, just I don't want to get political, but when we think about, there's certain states that aren't as I guess open to alternative lifestyles. There's a certain expectation as far as what your lifestyle should be like, what a traditional family looks like or relationships look like. And so as a result, there's some challenges there, and especially when it comes to adolescence. As adults, maybe we'll be a little bit more understanding, but this child is too young to be making these type of decisions. And so for me, I would like to know, as an educator, as someone who's passionate about doing this equity work, and again, wanting to ensure that all individual needs are being met, what type of language or support could you provide someone like me, who is like, I want to support individuals, your lifestyle, whatever it is, I want to support that, but maybe I'm dealing with a situation where the culture or the community is not accepting. What type of maybe talking points or maybe strategies that you might have available to support folks that are wanting to support our LGBTQ plus
FOLX.
the first thing is allyship. Number one, and it's one-on-one allyship. You don't have to be going out and changing the world. You're just being there for that child. You're changing their world. So signaling allyship is as simple as the first thing is pronouns. My pronouns are anywhere I have a name tag, anywhere. Every Zoom meeting and my signature line. If I go to a conference and they hand me a name tag, I put my pronouns on it right away. That is something that right away signals that I'm an ally, and anyone knows that they're safe to talk to me. Simple things like that. The other big thing is giving them a safe space where they can come and know that they could be a confidant, and unless they are threatening their own safety or someone else's safety, that it will stay with you. A lot of our kids, especially when they're going through adolescence and they're not sure and they're trying to figure it out, unfortunately, there aren't any resources out there for them.
Okay. Quick pause. Hang on. Let's take a look at her Twitter account. Thank you, Bot. Bot has found her Twitter account. Let's just take a quick gander. I don't know what we're going to find other than not only does she have her pronouns in her Twitter profile, she also has BLM in her Twitter profile. So that bodes well. Let's see. Ooh, maybe we can, if she has a series of events, then maybe we can spy stream one of her events. There's the podcast we're watching now. Oh, she's retweeting Occupy Democrats, which is no surprise to anyone. Oh my god. Oh my god, I didn't see this. Holy shit. Is it we stand this in solidarity with a relentless racism? What the fuck? I knew the Lord of the Rings thing on Amazon Prime was bad, but I had no idea it went this woke. Wow. Taking her kid to college. Fine, which isn't, bad. Oh my god, look at the thing she retweeted. If a former, this is an educator, okay? This is a woman that's educating your kids. If a former president is convicted of espionage, shouldn't all of his picks for the Supreme Court be annulled? No. That's not how that works, actually, but, dare to fucking dream, idiots. Oh my god, she's tweeting Brooklyn Dad defiant. Oh my god. I bet conservatives feel really, really welcome in her school. She seems kind of angry based on her retweets, doesn't it? Doesn't she? Pronouns. I want to see more of her thoughts. I don't want to just retweeting. The GOP-packed Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. We have to stick together and continue to fight for bodily autonomy. Well, that's not going to happen. Oh, she's tweeted moveon.org. MSNBC. Wait, he's MSNBC. Who is this? Podcast. I don't know. I thought he was MSNBC. Elon Musk is really doing an incredible job of educating the public about how capitalists end up aligning with fascists to maintain their wealth and limit the power of the working class. I want to see more of her thoughts, though. My baby was featured this year. The best part is knowing my kid works hard for equity and inclusion. Let's see if we can find her kid. Oh, there's her kid. Morgan Kaufman is a well-known champion for social justice, social equity, and gender and sexual identity groups. Morgan, who came out as queer in middle school, is president of Champs Gender and Sexuality Club. My goal is, you should look up this Champs thing. My goal is to create a welcoming and safe space for the safe community for younger people because it is really hard dealing with all of this as a kid. I want to create a forum where we can learn about queer culture and provide support. The straight A student believes the answer lies in education, while so do teachers, as it turns out. especially among older generations. We need to educate them about queer people and culture. Yes, this is Morgan, who they knew from age 2 were non-binary. Wow. All right. Well, that was a little fun jaunt into the Twitters of a mad woman. Let's return to the webinar that she did yesterday, shall we? Mount that like button if you haven't already. We do this every Friday at 5 p.m.
The first resource they're going to find is probably gay porn, because that's the only thing that they have access to. And so they need to be not shamed. They need to be able to talk. They need to be able to have someone that they can say, hey, this is what I need. This is what I'm going through. This is what I'm thinking. And that you can give them resources that are actually good resources, something through GLAAD or something through the local LGBT center, if there is one. And I'll be happy, Sheldon, to share a bunch of resources with you to send to all of your listeners and followers. I've got some lists of some good ones to send out. But really, it's that them knowing that they have someone is everything, because the number one problem with adolescents and our LGBT adolescents specifically is our suicide rate, because they don't feel that they have anyone they can turn to, especially in communities where they know their community won't accept them.
So suicide rates high?
Oh, tremendously high.
How
they
high?
are higher with LGBT youth than any other youth.
How high? How
Because
high?
they feel there's, like you said, no support.
She's not going to give a number.
And you have to think about how, depending on how they're growing up. Our child grew up in a very accepting household where everything was accepted,
where
and
they
talked
were
about.
groomed.
So our kid never felt uncomfortable about who, and they did. I mean, they went through body dysmorphia, but they went through all of their anxiety trying to come out, and they went through so much with that alone. And I saw them go.
I'm sure it was very challenging to be groomed by their parent,
even in our
who
household.
obviously has Munchausen's by proxy
when
when they were a kid.
Who don't have that support, who don't.
I'm sure it was
have
deeply challenging for them. I feel for
growing
them.
up in a household where they are hearing.
I wouldn't want it to be groomed
that
by my
what they
family
are feeling
either.
inside is wrong, and who they feel like they are inside is not acceptable. And so they don't feel that they can be who they are. They feel horrible. They feel evil. They feel they feel despair. And so they don't feel worthy of their life because they can't change to be who they think they're supposed to be.
Wow.
That's the reality of it.
Whew, okay.
Yeah, heavy.
That's heavy. That is heavy. I'm not gonna lie. Shout out to Jennifer. I'm a school counselor who facilitates gender support plans and presents statewide on LGBTQ plus support legal topics. So happy to talk about this. Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer, for listening.
You, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer, for admitting that you groom kids.
And I could only imagine 12 years old, 11 years old, not feeling like you have that support.
And they know, and a lot of them start feeling it. I mean, think about, as a cisgendered male, at what point did you start realizing girls? Probably kindergarten. Okay. Yeah. So that's age 5, 6. That's not even adolescence. Okay. And so someone who isn't feeling that and not feeling the same as their peers is starting to already question themselves. At what age do we condition our kids to decide that, if you're a boy, you're playing with cars and Legos and you're wearing blue and green?
You did that at 2, apparently.
You're playing with Barbie dolls and you're
2 years old is the answer compared to based on what you've already told us.
Automatically in our culture. And so these kids are getting these signals from a very early age that how they're feeling inside is contrary to the rest of the world.
Okay. Folks, if you're listening, if you got some questions, especially if you're an educator, you're or counselor, or whatever it is, whatever position you're in, feel free to drop some questions or comments in, and we'll definitely make sure that we get to them. So just want to throw that out there as well. I'm curious. You mentioned that you did have some resources available. Let's say I'm a teacher. I want to be supportive. What type of resources would you recommend for educators that are, again, trying to support our students?
Okay. Number one, I suggest that educators educate themselves on the vocabulary, the language, understanding, the development of it all. There's a lot to learn in that. And it could be quick, there's a great graphic out there called the Gingerbread Man. I'll share that with you.
No!
That shows all the different spectrums within the person. something
the
as simple as just
gingerbread
educating yourself on
person.
that language
It's like the gender
is a
unicorn,
good
except
start.
it's a gingerbread person.
After that, I think the next thing is, as far as resources go, is having resources for your students. Having books in your libraries that are about either diversity within the families, diversity within even non-gender specific characters, and then authors as well, so that they are seeing themselves in the literature and they're seeing themselves in their regular world. We don't need to make it something special. It doesn't need to be different, because then we're othering it again. So if we're including it, like everything, and making it inclusive of what we're doing in our normal day-to-day, that's what our kids are going to want. They're going to need that. And then third is the biggest resource that I can always recommend is knowing where your regular LGBT centers are. If you have any parent support groups in your area that you can recommend to parents, any student support groups in your area, those are the best starting points. And then when you're ready for the big step, starting a GSA at your site, making sure there's a safe space. And GSAs can be started in an elementary school level. Yes, that's my
told
person.
you. I told you it was a gingerbread
That's
person,
it right
not
there. Can you
gingerbread
walk us
man.
through this?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I have to, I have to be able to see. So
It's, I don't know how big it is for you.
it's a little small on my screen.
Okay.
I could do it. Yeah. So when we're looking at the gingerbread person, this is a great representation of understanding all the different parts of a human being. Because as I said earlier, when we talk about LGBTQIA, we tend to put it all in one thing, and a person is one thing, and we're not. We're all a big spectrum of things. So first is your identity, your gender identity, how you identify as a person. When I think about myself, do I think of myself as XYZ, wherever on the spectrum? Gender attraction, that's your sexuality, who you're attracted to. And again, it could be male, female, both, neither, etc. Gender expression is how you look on the outside. So as you were saying, Sheldon, you know someone who presents male
It's
but
the
identifies
clothes that
female.
you wear, because
And how hard it is
clothes
to remember
dictate
those
everything.
pronouns, because you're used to them and you look at them and they identify male. And I know several people like that, and who, you automatically have to remember that how they're expressing themselves is not necessarily.
I really need to update the Unwoke bingo card for many reasons. We're doing way more gender stuff than we're doing when I originally created the Unwoke bingo card. But the main reason I need to update the Unwoke bingo card is because I want to have a special square for drink anytime we encounter the fucking genderbread person or the gender unicorn. Reagan said in the chat, we see this effing graphic all the time. All the time. This graphic is everywhere. So we need a special category for drink anytime this graphic comes up. Cheers, everyone. Take a sip.
Necessarily how they identify. And then the sex, which is what they are born with. What is your actual genitalia? Again, not connected always to all the rest of those things. And so when we think about our LGBTQ plus learners, we have to be able to know which of these we are talking about at which time and in relation to each other.
Now, do our students know this? Here's the thing, because do they know about the gingerbread? Like, how are they learning this?
Internet.
You understand where I'm coming from?
Internet.
Like, do they understand what's happened? Like, I'm trying to figure out the best way to frame this question. But
they don't.
Okay.
They don't. They're figuring it out.
Okay.
I know exactly what they're figuring it out. They don't know, like, oh, I'm born with this and I'm attracted. No, they don't know that. That's exactly what the confusion is, because they live in a world where if you're male, you're attracted to female, you look male, you have male genitals. And if you're female, you're attracted to male and you have female genitals, you look and you express yourself as a female. So they are used to this very binary definition, and they don't know where they stand, because one of those things or multiple of those things is not akin to the other. And so that is what they're struggling with, and that's what they're trying to figure out. And they have no resources unless they have an adult that can be there for them. They are searching this stuff all online and they're finding whatever they can. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm grateful for TikTok. TikTok has been an excellent resource for our kids. Our kids are able to find what they need on there, and they are finding more on there than anywhere else.
My God.
Finding communities, they're reaching out to each other, they're creating affinity groups. it has been very helpful for them.
Anyone who is letting their kids on TikTok is fucking insane. TikTok? What is that other website? The fucking Tumblr. Don't allow your kids on these sites. That is insanity. These kids are getting such a distorted view of reality from those websites. It is absolutely, and by the way, dude, there are a lot of really nefarious actors that exist on your website. You're basically setting your kids up to be preyed upon by people that you like really, 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 really don't want your kids preyed upon. I'm going to tell you a story. So with the Unwoke Army stuff that I've been doing, there is a project that I'm like working on called Groomergate, and I'm not the only one working on it. Some other people are working on it as well. And basically the idea of Groomergate is that we infiltrate different trans spaces and we find out what they're saying. We're not just like disruptive or anything, but we find out what they're saying and we kind of like monitor it and look at it, and like if anything crazy comes up, like we might do something with that. The reason I bring that up is because one night I was working on creating a profile that I could use on different websites, and I'm posing as a 15-year-old girl. And within 15 minutes, of me posting something on the internet on one of those sites, and I'm not going to say which one, I had a legitimate pedophile in my messages. 15 minutes. That is not an exaggeration. And if I was a kid, I would have been completely sucked in by this person. But because I'm an adult, I knew what to look for. And I was like, man. But that's not a joke, guys. 15 fucking minutes. That was all it took. Keep your kids off of these sites. I just don't know any better way to say it. If they kick and scream and say you're ruining their lives because you won't let them on social media, you take the phone away. Let them cry it out. It's just the addiction. That's all it is. It is just the addiction talking. These things are so easy to get addicted to. No, it was not that pedophile from Louisiana that stalks me everywhere. It was not. It was someone else. I know a lot of parents don't want to take these sites away from their kids because the kids throw a massive hissy fit. And it's like it's easier just to give them the phone back and to give them the social media. But you could quite literally be saving your kid's life. I'm going to use their tactic. You could quite literally be saving your kid's life by taking the phone away. They don't need it. The phone is going to make them depressed. It's going to make them anxious. It's going to set them up for a lifetime of unrealistic expectations about how the world works. Just take it away. If they cry. Yeah, exactly, Myriad. Coke addicts have fits too, guys. It's just the addiction. Give them about a month and they will detox from it. But it's so easy to pull these kids in and to get them addicted. And that's what people like this rely on. You want parents to have the power back? Take social media away from your kids. You will take away all of their power. If you just take social media away from your kids, they don't need it. There's no reason for them to be on it. Let them cry it out. Let them have all the feelings they want. Let them tell you that they hate you and they're ruining your life and all this stuff. But they're going to grow up much better than the kids that are on TikTok. I'll tell you that.
Have that. But for the kids who are more shy and reserved and aren't going to put themselves out there, they're even more isolated.
Got you. All right. Well, I just dropped the link in the chat or in the comments for folks who want to find the gingerbread or gender. I'm saying gingerbread. The gingerbread person. Okay. I'm reading this terribly. by its pronounced metrosexual. Okay, .com. So that link is there. Here's a question that I have. I know there's a lot of educators that want to support our LGBTQ plus students. However, the challenge is maybe they're afraid to support them or provide them with these type of resources without parents pushing back or saying, why would you teach them this? This is not something we believe. There's that fear that if I share this, I want to support my students.
You actually have to let parents parent the kids. Oh my Lord.
And so I don't want to overstep my boundaries as an educator because I'm not the biological parent and I don't want to put myself in a bad spot, but I want to.
Sheldon, that is the correct inclination. Just stop there. Just stop. Stop talking immediately. I don't want to overstep my bounds as an educator because I'm not the parent of the kids. That's the sentence. Just stop. Just put the period. I want to support my kids, but I understand that I'm not the parent. Nope. Don't continue. But he's going to continue. He's going to continue.
Support my kids, but I know at home there's support. You understand where I'm coming from with this? Like,
yeah,
I know
understand,
but it's got to be a thing.
I understand, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate in that if that child has absolutely no support at home, and now you're saying that I know this child has no support and needs support, but I'm not going to give it to them because I'm scared of this other person, then I am again turning my back on that child.
Parent, you're not their parent. They're not your kids.
Multiple times.
They're not your kids.
I've put myself in those positions. I've had parents yell and scream at me. The only thing I can express to them every time they do that is that the beauty of a safe space is that you're allowed to have your opinion too.
Yeah. And
that's all I say to them. And that's all I will give
What
them.
A condescending bitch. Listen, man, I know condescending retorts. That's a fucking condescending retort.
It's hard. It's hard.
I am the fucking master of condescending retorts, okay?
Yell at me. I had a parent pull their kid out of my school and flip out on me and post all kinds of things online about me. It happens. That
you're gonna have more people posting stuff on your line now.
To me for help again. So, oh my God, that child knew I was there. So whether I was able to help them then or not, they knew they had someone. And sometimes that's all they need.
So what I'm hearing is that's a cop out. That's an excuse.
Yeah, sorry. That's like saying you're not gonna. So I'm gonna be blunt. That's like saying I'm not gonna teach about racism because I'm worried these parents are gonna come yell at me.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Sorry, but I'm teaching it. Like I my kids come first. I'm there.
Okay. Let's clip. Let's just clip. We got to go back a little bit. I'm sorry. This is a very clippable conversation.
As an educator, because I'm not the biological parent and I don't want to put myself in a bad spot, but I want to support my kids, but I know at home there's support. You understand where I'm coming from with this? Like,
yeah,
I know
understand, but
it's got to be a thing.
I understand, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate in that if that child has absolutely no support at home, and now you're saying that I know this child has no support and needs support, but I'm not going to give it to them because I'm scared of this other person, then I am again turning my back on that child. I've risked my neck multiple times.
There you go.
I've put myself in those positions. I've had parents yell and scream at me. The only thing I can express to them every time they do that is that the beauty of a safe space is that you're allowed to have your opinion too.
Yeah.
And that's all I say to them. And that's all I will give them. It's hard. I know it's hard because we have those. I've had parents yell at me. I had a parent pull their kid out of my school and flip out on me and post all kinds of things online about me. It happens. That child is now an adult and has reached out to me for help again. So that child knew I was there. So whether I was able to help them then or not, they knew they had someone. And sometimes that's all they need.
So what I'm hearing is that's a cop out. That's an excuse.
Yeah, sorry. That's like saying you're not gonna. So I'm gonna be blunt. That's like saying I'm not gonna teach about racism because I'm worried these parents are gonna come yell at me.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Sorry, but I'm teaching it. Like I my kids come first. I'm there to service them. I'm not there to service the parents.
I'm with you. And as educators, we're supposed to be there for our kids, and especially that one or two, small population of students maybe that are in these situations. They need at least one adult. Are you not going to be that one adult for them? Because if you don't do it, who will? And I think
They're not your kids. I was holding that in that entire fucking clip. They're not your kids. What is so difficult for these people to understand? They are not your kids.
I think you have a valid point. You know what? That's an excuse. Stand in there, but I can see a teacher say, "Well, my job. I don't want to put my job on the line if I advocate for a student when I know the parents aren't going to be supportive of it. I don't want to get myself in trouble."
Depends. It depends on your definition of advocacy. I'm not telling you to out the child and make sure the whole school knows. We're telling you to be that child's advocate, that if that child, when that child's around you, you use the pronouns they choose to use. When that child needs someone to talk to, you're there for them. When that child is telling you about their new boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever, that you're listening to them and you're supportive. That's what they need. They need to know that someone understands them. They don't need, they need to know that they can use the bathroom that they need to use. That's it. Make sure that they have access to the bathroom they choose to use. It's not, again, it's the littlest things right now. We're at that point where all these kids need is to know that their schools are safe for them to be their authentic selves. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Simple.
My kids does need to go on the bingo card, Reagan. You're right.
How about our language?
You're right.
Are there some things that we are saying in school, in our classrooms, or in our everyday experiences that we should be considering?
We all do it. Boys and girls being the most common one, of course. Ladies and gentlemen,
we should not say
we
boys
do
and
binary
girls.
language constantly. I do it all the time. I say guys all the time.
I do too. Yeah, I work on that.
That's been mine. I tried y'all.
I say guys too, and I'm not working on it.
I'm a person immigrant. Y'all doesn't work for me. It just doesn't sound right on me. So I couldn't do that one.
I refuse to do the work. You can't fucking make me.
Seems to be the most gender neutral term for kids. Folks. I refer to mine as learners. My learners, my students, and they've always just been my children. My students know that I've always referred to them as my children. So it's kind of
okay.
Hang on. I need to get that last little bit. I'm sorry. I need to.
Authentic self.
Hang on. My students have always known they're my kids. Really?
That's it.
That's it.
Simple.
Okay. How about our language? Are there some things that we are saying in school, in our classrooms, or in our everyday experiences that we should be considering?
We all do it. Boys and girls being the most common one, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, we do binary language constantly. I do it all the time. I say guys all the time.
I do too. Yeah, I work on that.
That's been mine. I tried y'all. I'm a person immigrant. Y'all doesn't work for me. It just doesn't sound right on me. So I couldn't do that one. Folks seems to be the most gender neutral term for kids. Folks. I refer to mine as learners. Learners.
Hang on. I'm sorry, guys. I fucked that up. I got to fix something. Hang on. We got to do it again. I'm sorry. My fault.
Be their authentic selves. That's it.
That's it.
I'm doing a screen record. Is what's happening.
Okay. How about our language? Are there some things that we are saying in school, in our classrooms, or in our everyday experiences that we should be considering?
We all do it. Boys and girls being the most common one, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, we do binary language constantly. I do it all the time. I say guys all the time.
I do too. Yeah, I work on that.
That's been mine. I tried y'all. I'm a person immigrant. Y'all doesn't work for me. It just doesn't sound right on me. So I couldn't do that one. Folks seems to be the most gender neutral
Okay.
term for kids, folks. I refer to mine as learners, my learners,
Mhm.
my students, and they've always just been my children. My students know that I've always referred to them as my children, so it's kind of
Okay.
a little different. But kids, anything that's not gender specific is the first thing to stay away from. And then the other part is really honestly being careful to not keep referring to whatever part of the either gender spectrum or sexuality spectrum these children are identifying.
All right.
on.
I got that. I got the clip. I got it. This woman is fucking unbelievable. I didn't think this was Jan. This was a good find. Good find. This was just yesterday, guys. This was yesterday. Oh.
Focus of every conversation. Don't keep bringing it up. If you misgender them, just like I said, quickly correct it and move on. Don't draw more attention to it. Don't make it a bigger deal, because then you're putting the onus of it on them. You're making them feel guilty that they're putting you through all of this trouble to try to correct them. Remember the pronouns.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just
shout out to Jan for
biggest
finding
things.
this presentation.
Okay.
Mount
I was
the
curious
like button
about that
for
because
Jan.
I'd say you guys a lot. I say guys a lot. And I'm constant. The other day, for example, and this may not be related, but it's maybe a little bit related from a gender side of things. I remember I went to an event and I saw a woman that I knew, and I said, "Oh wow, you're manning the table." And I was like, like afterwards,
Oh,
like
for
I
fuck's sake.
had a whole conversation, and I left, and then afterwards, I was like, oh shoot, that was very, not thinking. But I'm just, again, a lot of things that I'm used to saying growing up in those kind of common language. I was like, should I go back to this individual and apologize? I was like,
but it's about practice, not perfection, right? We're all works in progress, constantly working on it. The
Jan
fact that
wants you to mount the like button
the fact that you took the moment to like acknowledge it within yourself, to realize, hey, I said this.
Jan, you don't feel like I'm
exactly
grooming you, do you?
Acknowledged it and you moved on.
Mount
you
it
don't
hard,
make a big
guys.
deal about it. You
do it hard.
But the next time you're going to be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what this is. It's the same thing. We're all going to make mistakes, especially with genders. We're going to mess up their pronouns constantly. My child, it's been 5 years and I still mess up my child's pronouns constantly, especially when talking about when they were younger. It's a real difficult thing to do. And that's
maybe that's a sign that you groomed them to believe there's something they're not.
I have a learner who does drag, and remembering which pronoun to use when they're in depending on how they're presenting at that time, and constantly keeping track of that. So you're going to make mistakes, but it's that effort. It's the fact that you're putting yourself out there again, like putting your pronouns anywhere and everywhere, just making that. It's like that signaling of, I'm your person.
Deborah,
I'm
I
your
love that
person.
you said this, because I'm picturing you in my head singing the song, and I know what you look like.
All right, so
and I'm like, that's just perfect.
Because I almost went back.
So
I almost went back to the table. I was like, you know what? I'm sorry. I said manning the table, but then I was like, they didn't, just something going forward. Don't do it again. Basically, at the end of the day, that's kind of where I was at. I was like, just don't do that stuff again. I almost cussed. Don't do that stuff again. And then you'll be okay. I want to ask you about affinity spaces or affinity groups, gay student alliances, those type of groups. How important do you believe that those are to have in your schools?
Incredibly important. First of all, it signals to the community that you're supportive. And so when students are looking for schools, that's one of the things they're looking for. Some of them are doing it without their parents knowing, and that's important to do. The other part is to make sure that it's started and run by learners, by the students.
Yeah.
It is not an adult function. It is a student function. And having an advisor there present, but really making sure the kids, it's their space to do what they need within the group. And I've seen combinations. I've seen specific gay student alliances. I've seen gay straight alliances. I've seen ones that are just LGBTQ plus only. I've seen ones that are for allies, LGBTQ plus and allies. All of it works. It's just what your learners want, what they want, what their needs are, what are their expressions that they're looking for. And again, on that one, I'd be happy to share a resource. My child created an entire resource on how to start a GSA at your school because they did it. And when asked for it by a couple other people, so they created a quick little outline on how to do it for a student. So I will share that along. I'm sure they'd be thrilled to have that shared too, because they need to know. Again, it's a space for them to have the conversation.
Did she actually say? Did I miss this? Did she actually say it's important that their parents don't know what's happening? Did I miss this? If someone tells me I missed it in the chat, I'm going back. It's important parents don't know what's happening? Are you fucking shitting me? Oh my god, she said that! I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go back.
To make sure that it's started and run by learners, by the students.
Yeah.
It is not an adult function. It is a student function.
Is that what it was?
And having an advisor there present, but really making sure the kids, it's their space to do what they need within the group. And I've seen combinations. I've seen specific gay student alliances. I've seen gay straight alliances.
Hang on. I think I got to rewind a little bit more. I'm sorry, guys.
I almost went back to the table. So, you know what? I'm sorry. I said manning the table. But
you know what I'm gonna do? Just to save us some. Go back further. Is it right? Like where he's? It's got to be after this. Okay. Just to save us some time. If it's before this, let me know. But I think it's probably gonna have to be after this. Because he's doing his little like manning the table thing now. Go back. Okay. Is it? I'm good now? Okay. So just to save us some time, I'm going to start the clip. Just to save us some time. Because if she said it's important parents don't know. Okay. Thank you, guys.
On how they're presenting at that time and constantly keeping track of that. So you're going to make mistakes. But it's that effort. It's the fact that you're putting yourself out there again, like putting your pronouns anywhere and everywhere, just making that it's like that signaling of, I'm your person. I'm your support person. I get it. I'm there. I know what you're talking about.
Got you. Okay. All right. So, because I almost went back. To the table. So, you know what? I'm sorry. I said manning the table. But then I was like, they didn't. Just something going forward. Don't do it again. Basically, at the end of the day, that's kind of where I was at. I was like, just don't do that stuff again. I almost cussed. Don't do that stuff again. And then you'll be okay. I want to ask you about affinity spaces or affinity groups, gay student alliances, those type of groups. How important do you believe that those are to have in your schools?
Incredibly important. Incredibly important. First of all, it signals to the community that you're supportive. And so when students are looking for schools, that's one of the things they're looking for. Some of them are doing it without their parents knowing, and that's important to do. The other part is to make sure that it's started and run by learners, by the students.
Yeah.
It is not an adult function. It is a student function. And having an advisor there present, but really making sure the kids, it's their space to do what they need within the group. And I've seen combinations. I've seen specific gay student alliances. I've seen gay straight alliances. I've seen ones that are just LGBTQ plus only. I've seen ones that are for allies, LGBTQ plus and allies. All of it works. It's just what your learners want, what they want, what their needs are, what are their expressions that they're looking for. And again, on that one, I'd be happy to share a resource. My child created an entire resource on how to start a GSA at your school because they did it. And when asked for it by a couple other people, so they created a quick little outline on how to do it for a student. So I will share that along. I'm sure they'd be thrilled to have that shared too, because they need to know. Again, it's a space for them to have the conversations they need to have. And 9 out of 10 times, I can tell you that the majority of groups that I've seen at the schools, they do things like just presenting about different LGBTQ artists or people in different industries, or watching a movie, or doing a book study, or arts and crafts, whatever. And then sometimes it's deep discussion because they need a topic that they have to talk about. Mm-hmm. So allowing them that flexibility where that group authentically and organically becomes what those kids need, it will change, it will ebb and flow, and it'll be theirs.
So I didn't hear what you guys said happened. I didn't hear it. Did you guys hear it again that time? Did I just miss it again? This is why it's important to listen closely. Like, listen, I'm not above like calling out like when these people say messed up shit. I just didn't hear her say it's not important that like the parents don't need to know about it or something like that. Maybe she did and I missed it. Did I fucking miss it again? Did she say it in that clip and I just missed it? She said some kids are doing it without parents' knowledge. Okay, well, I have the clip. I will go back and listen to it just to make sure. But thank you guys. Let's keep going. We got about 15 more minutes in this presentation.
Now I could hear. So how do I want to frame this? Okay, it's in my head. Okay, so I could see there might be a school, or maybe we have not identified an openly out individual who's part of the community, but we want to have this advisory. We want this program. We want this alliance, this affinity space. We have not been able to identify, or maybe there is someone who is there, but they're just unavailable to run the group. Is it okay for a straight person, someone who is not part of the community, to lead or serve as an advisor? What type? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
100%.
Okay.
I think 100% it's you're serving as an ally. And at that point, if your school is not there yet, where people are comfortable enough, where the students know, I mean, the students at my school knew that we had trans staff members. They were out and very open about it.
Sure.
It was easy for that. But if your school is not there yet, then you're not there yet. You start where you're at. And it might be that you're not even ready for a full GSA yet. It might be that what you're ready for is a few teachers that just start putting their pronouns or just start putting safe space flyers in their windows. That's it. That might be all you're ready for right now, is a safe space where people could drop in and talk. And then moving forward. Like it's again, it's like anything in education. We have to meet the kids where they're at.
Yeah.
Like we can't have these benchmarks of every school should have X, Y, Z. Like you said, it's the same with any equity work. You can't be like, oh, you do this, this, and this, and this happens. It's an organic process that lives in who are you serving? Who's your community? Who are your students? Who are their families? Who is your staff? What are your local resources? And all of that put together, what are the needs of these kids?
What are the needs of these kids? I like that. Now, I think I've kind of thrown out a couple questions for some strategies, but are there some specific strategies that you want to provide our educators with that we have not discussed yet?
I'll just keep pushing pronouns. Okay. Honestly, like I can't even push that enough. It's in my signature line, even with a document.
Just like it's pronouns.
You
Pronouns.
It says why
pronouns.
they're important.
Pronouns.
So truly, that is
pronouns is all the.
It's will push.
Hang on.
And second is signaling that
you want to know why pronouns are so important to these people. It's not for the reason they think it is. The reason pronouns are so important to these people is that it's a public indication of where they stand. It is a virtue signal. It is nothing more than that. That's why they push it all the time. I have my pronouns. Do you have your pronouns? I have my pronouns. I'm in with the cool kids. I was a geek in high school, but now I have my pronouns on my name tag and in my Zoom handle and all these things. And that means that I'm a good person. They're looking for validation for being a good person. That's why it matters.
You're a safe space. If it could be as simple as hanging a rainbow flag somewhere in your room. It could be as simple as getting one of the Glisten or GLAD flyers that says this is a safe space. And
Glisten is awful.
Outwardly welcoming your kids first, because it's going to take a while for them to, even with families, when kids come out, they talk about how there's this whole coming in process before they come out. Like there's this whole self-discovery, and they go through usually 2 years of self-discovery before they ever come out to someone. So knowing that while your kids are going through that self-discovery, before they're ready to do this full formal coming out, you want to have them to know.
Stephen, we need to make this a t-shirt, Stephen. Make pronouns grammatical again. That'd be a great t-shirt. Maybe I'll make that t-shirt. Stephen, would you mind if I made that t-shirt? I think that'd be funny.
That this is a safe space and be able to support their coming in. And so I truly believe that's a really important place to start, is making sure they know that they are safe, that they have a safe space, that you are an ally, and then go from there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, but I would say, and I'm assuming you would agree, having a flag, having saying I'm
I'm
a
gonna
safe
make that
space is not
T-shirt. I'm
enough.
not even joking.
That's just a
I'm gonna
start.
make it.
Okay,
That's
all
just
right.
the start. I mean, I'm telling you, that's just the start. After that comes whatever they need. I mean, that's where you start seeing where the needs are. Um, at my first school, I mean, elementary school, the need for these kids, for most of them, was just a place to gather and meet other kids.
That
And so
may
my
be as well,
classroom
King
became
Peter.
where
You
all the
might be
kids hung
right
out at
about that.
lunchtime. And these kids knew that they could meet others that were different and they could come hang out. So it was giving them a space, not just me as a person, but a safe space for a community to start building. It could be as simple as, hey, they're going to come to you with their issues. If you're welcoming, they're going to come. You're going to have to let them come to you and be there for them. And the things that are going to arise, number one is going to be bathrooms. The number of times kids are not allowed to go to the bathroom that they choose because someone perceives that they are a different gender, or that because they have a different sexuality, they're going to look at
How
your
many
child, or
times?
any of
2?
that other bullshit. Sorry, but really, that is the first thing, making sure they know that they can use the bathroom of whoever, wherever they identify at that time. And I want to stress at that time,
At that time,
because
I
kids
love it.
will change.
Yeah.
And some kids will, try on multiple genders and personas and understandings of themselves as they're going through this discovery. I mean, think about when we're growing up, how many different styles of clothing did we go through?
What the fuck? These people honestly think that gender is the same as clothing. They really do. They might change their gender. Well, if they can change their gender, then how did they know what it was in the first place? Oh, fuck, I'm gonna have to clip that, aren't I? I have to. I have to be responsible and clip it. We're watching it anyway. God, this woman. This woman is something else. All right, clipping.
No, that's just the start.
Okay,
That's just the start. I mean, I'm telling you, that's just the start. After that comes whatever they need. I mean, that's where you start seeing where the needs are. At my first school, I mean, elementary school, the need for these kids, for most of them, was just a place to gather and meet other kids. And so my classroom became where all the kids hung out at lunchtime. And these kids knew that they could meet others that were different and they could come hang out. So it was giving them a space, not just me as a person, but a safe space for a community to start building. It could be as simple as, hey, they're going to come to you with their issues. If you're welcoming, they're going to come. You're going to have to let them come to you and be there for them. And the things that are going to arise, number one is going to be bathrooms. The number of times kids are not allowed to go to the bathroom that they choose because someone perceives that they are a different gender, or that because they have a different sexuality, they're going to look at your child, or any of that other bullshit. Sorry, but really, that is the first thing, making sure they know that they can use the bathroom of whoever, wherever they identify at that time. And I want to stress at that time.
At that time,
because kids will change. Yeah. And some kids will, try on multiple genders and personas and understandings of themselves as they're going through this discovery. I mean, think about when we're growing up, how many different styles of clothing did we go through, right? Mm-hmm. There's some outfits that I can't believe I even would dare put on my body, especially as a teenager. And these kids are going through the same thing. They're trying on these different roles and personas, trying to find themselves. And that's going to be part of it. So allow them that freedom to do that. It's not going to harm them. It's going to be safer if they know that they can express themselves and figure it out with you.
I wonder what kind.
Hang on. King Peter has made a really salient point. I just got to finish this clip first before we get to it. But it's a really great point, Peter. Just going to take me a second to... There we go. There's the clip. It's in the queue. All right. So King Peter of the chat said, this one you need to clip and add a statement to. If their gender is in flux and certain to change, then you cannot allow permanent changes based on it. Really great point, Peter. A great point that is being ignored by, sadly, many hospitals.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking, as I'm listening to that, I feel like we're doing a lot of support for our teachers or our educators in regards to what we can do as adults to support our students. But I wonder what type of conversations maybe we should have with their peers, their classmates. 100%. How do we support because it's one thing for us as adults to understand and be there and support and allies and all those things. But what are some things that we can do to, again, help them feel included or welcomed within the school or classroom community?
It's making it normalized. It's anytime a child brings it up, it's making sure that the conversation happens where it is very normalized.
Mhm.
If a child says, oh, but Johnny was he yesterday, why is Johnny now Jeanette and she today? And the response being, depending on the age group,
Why do
as
they
simple
always
as,
change their name
well,
to something that
it's
begins
really
with the same
beautiful that
letter?
each of us gets to discover
Like, you can pick
who
any
we are
name
as
in
a
the world
person.
and you choose one that begins
And
with the
Jeanette
same letter.
has chosen to identify as Jeanette and use she and her today. So really just as simple as honoring them that this is their choice and this is who they are authentically, and not letting kids have and allowing the conversations depending on age appropriate. Again, if we are exposing our kids to books with other genders within them, if we are exposing our kids to books with children with two fathers or two mothers at a younger age, just like if we're exposing them to books that have other cultures within them, then they're not going to fear it. And that's where it always comes from. It's always from a place of fear and a fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
But if our kids in kindergarten have been looking at picture books that have gender neutral characters in it, by the time they're in 3rd or 4th grade and Johnny's now switching to Jeanette, they're not going to even notice it. And that's what I saw with my child. None of their friends even batted an eyelash. That, like, nothing. It was the most organic process at this school. And I watched all of these different kids come into who they were in an environment that was so supportive that not a single other child questioned it.
Hmm.
And that's what we want.
Yeah, that's ideally in a perfect world.
Yeah. So libraries is a big thing. There's a group out there called Gender Nation that will do free libraries for schools. So I strongly suggest you reach out to them. They are an incredible resource. And they have done libraries for districts. They've done libraries for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade classrooms. They start primary, which is one of the things I love about them. And then, having resources and exposure within the classroom. So making sure our kids learn about, when I taught 5th grade for a long time and then 8th grade, and 5th and 8th grade history, Civil War, right? Mm-hmm. Fun subject to teach. But my favorite part of teaching about it was I love teaching about Loretta Boyd, who was a spy who, during the war and dressed as a male and was actually a very gender fluid person if you do research and et cetera, et cetera. But that was one of the things that I loved, was I was able to give my students a character that they could identify with in history within whatever they were studying. It's the same thing when we were reading. Anytime we were reading, if we were reading an author that was an LGBTQ plus author, I made sure my kids knew that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hide it. I would highlight it. We would talk about it. We would talk about their lifestyle. Oh, wow. How hard must it have been to write this book at that time, identifying this way? Having those cultural deep conversations on a regular basis. And this is beyond just, what can I do? One-offs like PDs. It's about, as an educator, when we work with our kids, when we talk to our kids, making sure that everything we're discussing with them, we go in with a cultural lens of them understanding not only their own culture and where they fit in, but also the culture of whatever we are talking about and how that relates, so that our kids are growing up accepting and feeling inclusive and understanding of all others.
Okay. Yeah. I got a lot of thoughts. I'm just curious. Obviously, the conversation with high schoolers or middle schoolers are going to be different than your elementary kids. Do you believe that our early childhood, elementary, should have some of these initial conversations?
I think when they arise organically.
Okay.
I don't believe anything should be ever introduced in a vacuum, because what's the point? Because then that's when there's an ulterior motive or it doesn't make sense. Kids don't connect to it. But yeah, when it comes up organically, when you're reading a book and the character is identifying gender neutral and stopping the class to say, if a child asks what it means or why, then you have the conversation. You're going to allow their self-discovery and their questions to guide it.
Got you. Okay. Are there any maybe textbooks, or maybe not textbooks, reading material that you would recommend, like a certain book?
Unfortunately, there's
There's no books on
There's
this
little that's comprehensive in
ever.
this, because this is again what you were saying. A lot of people are scared to write about and work on
No
this.
one is scared to
It's
write
one of
about
those
it.
taboo subjects because people are afraid that they're going to offend someone, especially when it's such a broad subject. We've taken gender, sexuality, attraction, genitalia, all of it, and lumped it into one big category. So I think most importantly is small resources. Listen resources are number one. And like I said, I'll send those to you and your followers and readers. And then the second would be whatever LGBT center or any type of, here we have a group in Southern California called Transforming Families. That's a parent support group for trans students, parents of trans children. I cannot talk enough about them. They are the number one resource here in Southern California for trans families. But anything that that's out there, connecting with them, because they will come to your site. They will support you. Our local LGBT center got several funds for us to build a GSA hangout space. And they got it funded completely through Target and I want to say Bank of America. So there are resources out there in your
hang on. Target and Bank of America is the one that's really interesting to me. We need to search down this information. I'm not even joking about this. This is like an Unwoke Army thing. Is Bank of America, who just canceled someone, didn't they? Who did Bank of America just cancel? Someone. Oh, fuck. I saw it on Twitter yesterday. Not Kanye West. Kanye West got canceled by JP Morgan, but Bank of America canceled someone. Who the fuck did Bank of America cancel? I know it's in my Twitter somewhere. Anyway, is Bank of America funding GSAs while they're canceling conservatives? No. It wasn't Kanye. Kanye got canceled by JP Morgan Chase, but Bank of America canceled someone. I just can't. Yes. Yeah, it might have been Mike Lindell. It might have been, but there was another one. There was another one yesterday. Fuck. Cat Turd. Yes. King Peter. Cat Turd. Bank of America just canceled Cat Turd. And I'm not the biggest fan of Cat Turd. I will say that. But I do think it's bullshit that Bank of America fucking canceled Cat Turd while they're funding GSAs. Excuse me, what? Hang on. I need to clip this just to make this specific point. Tagging the shit out of Cat Turd in this tweet. If he doesn't fucking retweet me, he's a tool.
Any type of, here we have a group in Southern California called Transforming Families. That's a parent support group for trans students, parents of trans children. I cannot talk enough about them. They are the number one resource here in Southern California for trans families. But anything that's out there, connecting with them, because they will come to your site. They will support you. Our local LGBT center got several funds for us to build a GSA hangout space. And they got it funded completely through Target and I want to say Bank of America. So there are resources out there in your area that you want to reach out to.
Is Bank of America funding GSAs? That seems like a highly relevant piece of information, doesn't it? That's a good clip.
To pull them into. So it's not just you doing the work alone.
Okay. Parnas, I definitely consider you as providing a voice in leading equity. I'd love for
we gotta look this woman up.
Any final thoughts, final word of advice?
I want to know what else this woman has done.
Out there. Love them, because that's all they're trying to do. They want love and acceptance, just like all of us.
Yeah, absolutely, just like all of us. If we got some folks that want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach you online?
The best way is Instagram. And you can search for my name. I am on Instagram or on Twitter. I'm on both. And then you can also send me an email. My email is really easy. It's my name, farnaz.kaufman@gmail.com.
There it is. Well, it has truly been a pleasure. I definitely appreciate your time. Thank you for enlightening
Thank
us.
you for
You know,
having me.
I've learned a lot.
I am so blessed to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Fernez.
Oh, pleasure's
Thank
all
you for
mine.
letting us know about
Pleasure's all
Bank of
mine.
America
So thank
funding
you.
GSAs. We really do appreciate
All
that.
right, take care.
We really do appreciate that. That was, guys, I think that might have been, you know, sometimes we watch whole presentations that are really boring and really academically for that one moment. That one moment. And we had several moments in this presentation. I have like 6 clips. In an hour presentation, I have like 6 fucking clips. But that one clip about Bank of America is the most important. Listen, for all of the outlandish outrage junkie stuff, and listen, we got some good outrage junkie clips today. We did. But we need to acknowledge their outrage junkie clips. I'm gonna post them on Twitter and they're gonna fucking rile people up and they're be like, yeah. But the most important clip we got was Bank of America and Target funding GSAs. You follow the money, you see what people's real values are, particularly when Bank of America just canceled Cat Turd, and I think that they did cancel Mike Lindell as well. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? A GSA, if you don't know, used to be called a Gay Straight Alliance. Now it's called a Gender Sexuality Alliance, and there have been multiple GSAs who have, well, groomed children without their parents knowing. It's one of the gateways to all of this bullshit. But guys, that is all we have for today. I do happy hours on Fridays at 5 p.m. on my second channel, youtube.com/activelyunwoke. I also am streaming on Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble. Let me just check in with the chats over there. Intense Heat, I appreciate you watching on Odyssey. Thank you for chatting in. St. Miles over on Rumble. Appreciate it, St. Miles. We are even streaming on Gitter now. I think I'm streaming on Gitter. Yep, that looks like it's up and running. So guys, if I ever get a YouTube strike or something like that, I do stream on other platforms as well. You can always find me there, but of course the chat is the best on YouTube. That's all I have for right now. Remember, Actively Unwoke Book Club, 3 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to do Socialism Saturday later in the day. I have a little mission that I'm doing on Sunday, a secret mission with the LPNH to crash a campaign event and do something that I'm not going to talk about on the internet. But I will be back in time for movie night with my supporters in my locals community, in my Patreon community. You guys are anyone who supports my work is welcome to come and join the supporter Discord. We're doing regular movie nights on Sundays. They're not every week, but they're like very, very often. Every week, every other week. Just depends. I think we're watching Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Nightmare on Elm Street is winning the current poll, so it's very likely that we will be watching Nightmare on Elm Street on Sunday at 8 p.m. If you've never seen it, it's one of the best movies ever made. I'm sorry. It's a cult classic. It's one of my favorite movies. Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite horror series. Over on my bookshelf, somewhere, it's either on my bookshelf or it's on my desk over here, I have a legit Freddy glove with metal fingers. I've got one of the most badass Freddy gloves you've ever seen in your life. So I'll be wearing that to movie night on Sunday in the supporter Discord at 8 p.m. It's a great flick. All right, guys, that's all I've got for right now. I'm going to go make some clips and ask why Bank of America is canceling conservatives while they're funding GSAs. It's an important question for a Friday evening. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you soon. But wait. Jennifer. We should watch Teen Witch. Oh my god. Dave 123R. I was just thinking about Teen Witch the other day. It's funny that you bring Teen Witch up. I was literally just thinking about this movie the other day. Add it to, not for Halloween month, but can we just add Teen Witch? Jennifer, you're going to love Teen Witch. Teen Witch, if you guys haven't seen Teen Witch is one of the best movies ever. I know I say that this about everything. I know I just said it about Nightmare on Elm Street, but no, legitimately, Teen Witch is one of the best 80s. It's one of the best movies of the 80s. We have to. Jennifer, we have to. It's just like, it's already decided. I am making an executive fucking decision, all right? Do you know how many times I've seen that movie? A lot. And I would watch it again. But for right now, we're going to wrap it up, guys. We'll see you guys all later. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see